Hello, all. Nice to see you around. I think there's a few more minutes that we can wait for a few of our friends to join, more students coming in. And keep your questions rolling in the live chat section, keeping a note of that and making sure that we address that in this webinar. Thank you, Vijay Patel, for some of your questions. Keep them coming in. Webinar is a funny thing where only I get to talk and I can't have the other person talk, especially in this format. But please use the live chat section, and your question often is super useful for not just you. You'll be surprised on how many people have the same question on their mind. So just type in.
It's 11 o'clock.
So it's 11 o'clock now, and we will just wait for a few more minutes. So Vijay Patel, your questions are in India. There is no value of agricultural land, even though if big farmer too, not accepting agricultural land during education loan. And how we get perfect visa for USA for study, need some tips. How much bank balance you need for USA visa. Cool. These are, I'm sure many people must be thinking about this as they're thinking about their financing. There's a good connection between financing and US visa or any other country's visa. So we'll touch upon that too. So today we are going to cover aspects like scholarships, covering aspects of student loans, soft loans, etc. So if you think someone is out there who would require this information, you could share the link of the webinar with them and they can join it directly. If not get visa, what do you want to do next? Okay, what you can do next? Okay, that's a broad question, but I can attempt to answer that. Hello, new people. We have more people joining in with every minute. How are job opportunities for electronics in USA? Rohit Kilkale has asked that question. Thank you, Rohit. Keep them coming. Just making a note so that I don't miss them as I answer. Let's give it 2 more minutes for people to join in. Thank you for your patience. Okay, France versus USA. Shivam Kumar asked that. Thank you, Shivam. I was about to ask for which course and what are your objectives for your masters. If you could lay out that as well. Okay, think about a few more questions, keep them coming in so that we make this very productive for everyone participating. Got it. With better career growth and better earning. We did a research where we saw that 70% to 75% of the students go abroad with the primary reason of better earning and better career growth, in line with this aspiration of yours. Most of us do that. The other parameters that some of the students would go for are purely for learning, research, and come back and things like that. Thanks for stating that. What else? What other question do you guys have on your mind? What do you want out of this webinar, so that by the time we end the webinar, you should have some clarity on the questions that you are asking. That's my objective. So let me know what is on your mind so that we could carve out this webinar's direction in that line. Good point. Is job experience required for your masters? Good, good. Keep them coming in. If you can even think about how to finance your masters, any questions that come in that direction, considering your profile, considering your financial profile, or considering the universities that you're going to, considering the discussions that you've been having with banks, anything that comes to your mind, keep them sharing in, because there is no one single platform where students actually share specifically finances related points on how a bank A responded to a student, and a similar profile student in a different city might be talking to bank B. So how are they actually getting different deals is something that we could talk about. Okay. For MBA, what kind of job experience is required, technical or non-technical? My daughter got undergraduate admission in USA University today. I-20, you're couriering out the I-20. You'll receive the I-20, and what do we do next? Okay, that is from Vijay Patel, and the MBA question is from Abhijit. Thank you. All right, so you guys keep sharing the questions as they come to your mind as I speak about this topic of, how we can save 23 lakhs or even more at times uh, when we are planning to go abroad. So I'll start off with an assumption that your course would require say 50 lakhs, and then take different aspects that you may want to cover, and what are the different areas in which you need to be mindful about in terms of how you spend that money. And you know before getting into the financing, I just want to roughly touch upon some of the questions that are not related to financing, so that there is some clarity in terms of the other aspects. And we always evaluate the financing from the perspective of whether it is worth the money or not. Should I invest 50 lakhs or not? And when will we know that it is worth? When we say when we see a potential career path which can easily help us earn significant money, then it financially would reason out to be a decent bet to spend 50 lakhs. So some of the questions are in that direction, wherein jobs, which one is basically better? How is USA for electronics, or how are the renewable energy courses, France versus USA, or job experience? What is it that you have to aim for? In general, for an MBA program, good business schools would ask for a job experience of at least 2 to 3 years, but it's not mandatory. In some of the schools, they say that you tell us why we shouldn't consider the experience, and then they are happy to roll in and accept your application. The the other aspect is in terms of France versus USA. In general, USA has been very dominant in its economic growth compared to France, and I would bet on USA, even in the renewable energy space, because of the overall sector and the investments and capital available, and so the economic growth potential that USA has. It's specifically about renewable energy. If there are any specific questions, write to me separately, and I'll be trying to connect you with someone who is in this space, some of the alumni that I know who went to these schools. In case of coming to the visa, tips, I'll cover that at a later part of this once I complete the financing part. So let's start off with, understanding a bit more about, say, the financing part. And before that, I just want to introduce myself formally. My name is Sashidhar, and I am an alum of University of Pennsylvania. I did my master's in higher education, so I love studying about universities, movement of students from India to abroad, and I spent my master's program on this aspect instead of a program like a computer science or a data science, which many of you must be considering, or an electronics related subject. I also did my undergrad from BITS Pilani, 2005 batch, and I also helped universities like Ashoka University set up in the initial phases between 2011 and 2015. And for my master's program, I was fortunate to get funded by Government of India and the US. I received a scholarship of about 65, 70 lakhs, and I'm going to talk about some of the aspects of scholarships that I learned during that time, so that you won't miss certain opportunities that may seem to be useful for you. So as I said, let's take a case of, say, you requiring to spend 50 lakhs. And how are you going to reduce this amount? And is your expense really 50 lakhs? To start off with, with understanding of whether 50 lakhs is the actual expense or not, you should understand that if you are using anything other than a scholarship, or even a soft loan, which I will be talking about, then your expense is usually not just the 50 lakhs. Because even if you put in your savings, that means you'll be giving up on the interest rate that you may potentially earn. So it is slightly more than that. And if at all you're taking a student loan or an education loan that you call, your expense is is not just that 50 lakhs, but also the interest that you pay over a certain period of time, which is usually 5 to 10 years. So let's talk about how to save as much money as possible on this amount of 50 lakhs. The first thing that I want to cover is the scholarships. The number of scholarships available for different courses vary. Similarly, available for those available for Indian citizens would vary from a US citizen. And even within India, if you belong to a certain category of students, either a minority or a general category, they would vary based on that. But many students in general assume that going abroad would mean very low number of scholarships being available. I would request you to consider few points here. Number one, that there are different kinds of organizations which give out these scholarships. The first checkpoint is, have you explored enough or all the scholarships and evaluated your eligibility criteria against all possibilities, and did you exhaust all of the options? Because interestingly, scholarship is the only opportunity when you can actually spend maybe 3 hours or a day and then suddenly have a lot of return, if at all it is going to be working in favor for you. So definitely cover these aspects. One is program specific scholarships, which you will mostly not miss when you're applying to universities. The other one is international scholarships, like Fulbright organization. There are other organizations which give scholarships to those who are going from India, if they're going abroad. And state government sponsored or central government sponsored scholarships, you should visit your own state's websites and Government of India website of MHRD and figure out what scholarships they announce every year. There are hundreds of crores that get dispersed. Even for overseas, there are specific state governments like Maharashtra, Sikkim, AP government, or Telangana government, or Karnataka government, which announce certain specific scholarships for different categories of students. So do not miss on those elements at all. And lastly, there are corporations like or trusts like Tata trusts. There are many other trusts like that, which actually give out these scholarships. So do not miss on those scholarships. There is Lakhs, there is Aga Khan, there are a few more such organizations which actually categorically announce that they are happy to help students who definitely match with their vision. So each organization or each trust is set up with a cause, and if you are one of the students who meets that cause, or if you are wanting to come back to India, if your economic background is in certain ways, then they would be more favorable. But you should definitely touch upon these things. And yeah, so don't leave any stone unturned. And this is very similar to the admission process. Each of them will have their own deadlines. The earlier you apply, better it is for you, because they have a certain budget and that gets exhausted with time. It is already February. Some of the scholarships are still pending. They close out in March or even April, but not beyond that at all. So it is important to get hold of an exhaustive list of scholarships that are relevant to you and what are the pending deadlines. If you contact us at GradRight, we'll be happy to assist you with those scholarships and we research on scholarships that are specific to one student's profile and help you with that. So another aspect is graduate assistantships. In US, you can work on campus. In other countries like Canada or Australia, you can work outside, or Europe, you can work outside the campus. So working on campus is also a possibility in these different countries. But it is important to know a few things. What has happened in the past is something that you may want to know, so that you can see whether there are enough jobs on campus. So we also aggregated that information in terms of which campus has higher jobs available, and what has been the trend. For example, Texas A&M University in the US would have actually a larger number of assistantships compared to Stony Brook University. If that is a pattern that you identify, then you could choose when you're evaluating these admits. And if you are assuming that you will fund yourselves through an assistantship on campus, which majority of the students would think about, then make sure that you enter a race where you can win. uh, so you could opt a university if rest of the parameters are favorable, equally favorable for you. Then choose a university where the assistantship probability is higher. So if you want visibility into that data, you let us know about which universities you are looking at, and we could figure out if the probability of those universities can be put out, so that you can take an informed decision. And lot of students would assume that these assistantships would turn out to be in their admission offers. But I must tell you that only 20-30% of the assistantships actually come into your admission offers. The others, you need to hunt for them. You need to be very proactive, and you need to write to every single faculty member out there and make sure that you exhaust all options. When I say every single faculty member, it's not the idea of spamming everyone, but evaluate, if there is a center, there is a department, there is a faculty member who relates to whatever skill you have. It could be, say, you could be going for MS in computer science, but you could be good in, say, web development, and or you could be good in writing. So you could use any skill, and that is hugely favorable for any of the universities. So just don't miss on those opportunities, and we guide you in figuring out. We created a checklist wherein you can actually go through that and understand what are the different things that you should surely cover. One of the parameters is, uh, it's more like writing an SOP, but a shorter SOP just in an email, talking about why you are a great fit and you would love to work with them. Do not showcase the aspect of you requiring money, but showcase the aspect of what you can deliver for the center, for the faculty member. And if you can spend a little more time to talk to alumni of that university, you'll be able to figure out those opportunities better. So we'll cover that in detail for each student, because though you might be going to a different university and things like that separately. Now let me just catch up on some of the questions that are coming in. What are the things that are like restrictions on visa by Trump? Really, there are no strict restrictions that are actually implemented. So you should not worry about the press and the general news. So you should see that as a possibility of of bias that gets created. And unless there is real data that is changing, you should not worry about it. And in fact, even without any solid changes in the visa regulations, we ourselves in the last 2 years has reduced the number of people, like India reduced the number of students who are going abroad. Like, we did not choose to apply, and there is a slight dip in the numbers because of that. So you don't have to worry about it. If you think US is a good option from your careers or learning point of view, you should go ahead and apply. Sure, you could get the archived session. We will email out the archived session, Yogya Modi. So feel free to accept that later. And Shivam Kumar, you're talking about acceptance letter from the University of Manchester, but the course duration is of 1 year and fee is a bit higher. would it be safe to accept that offer? It really depends on, say, 1 year programs, I must tell you, are very favorable for student loans because you start earning right after 1 year instead of waiting for 2 years. So you will have access to funds, most probably. And University of Manchester, it really, how the placements are and things like that would, drive up the possibility. And an important check of whether there are good placements or not is to basically ask banks for non-collateral loans. If they are happy to give you a non-collateral loan for that university, then you could bet on, say, having good returns because they have researched this and they're okay with taking no collateral or property from you and issuing a loan. That would make it easier for you to access the data that is generally not available in the public. But in general, look at the placement ratios, how many people are graduating, how many people are actually placed, and within those who get placed, what's the average salaries. Often ask these questions specifically to the admissions officers, and you may get a benefit out of that. And any student can do this when they're evaluating their options. If at all financial evaluation is something that is important, you could do that. And specifically for the university that you're going to, make sure that you're connected with the admission officer and you ask them whatever you need. See, as much as they want you, you want them. So it's a mutual agreement and relationship. So you should ask away all the questions and don't worry about a reject because of that. And so let's come back to the aspect of reducing your 50 lakh requirement. If at all there is a number, I've just took an example. In your case, it could be 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, 70 lakhs, whatever it that be. And the other point is that with scholarships, even if it drops by 5 lakhs, even if there are smaller scholarships, do not leave on those options. Make sure that you apply to even smaller scholarships, which are only offering, say, $1,500 or $2,500. There is no reason why you need to not invest 2 hours to earn that 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees. So apart from scholarships and assistantships, what is another aspect that I want to cover is that it's the soft loans. There are again many trusts and government opportunities which would host a lot of soft loans. So make sure that you explore those options and making sure that you actually apply to those soft loans is very important. Now, what is a soft loan? Soft loan is nothing but a loan which is at 0% interest or very subsidized interest rate. In some cases, it can go up to 6%. That in general you won't find elsewhere in India. You cannot get a loan at 6% in India, unless you take it from your relatives. So the idea is, making sure that you do not spend more. So explore the soft loans option, and they also come with certain conditions, like you have to study this area, and you have to come back to India, or in their cases there are no conditions, but it is worth exploring all of them and see what fits for you. Also understand that if you are not choosing an engineering degree and or a professional master's like an MBA degree, then the scholarship possibility is slightly higher. But that doesn't mean if you're choosing a STEM program like a engineering program or an MBA program, even if it is non-STEM, it doesn't mean that the scholarships are lesser. So you should give a lot more importance to scholarship if it is a STEM and an MBA, because there are some and you don't want to miss them. So let's move on to the aspect of student loans. And regarding student loans, this is a place where you could see solid savings. And what we saw is, with the current process of whatever you're thinking as the current process in general, going to 3-4 banks, asking for different their offers from them for your profile, and then choosing one of them. This process that we are totally used to is leading to the fact that 80% of you are losing on saving at least 3 lakhs. Last year, there was one case where we shifted the savings by 29 lakhs. because someone was taking an interest at 15% and we could move them to a 9% interest loan. So it is important to research as many as possible. And just to let you know, for the fact that we are on the call, maybe I can do this. So this talks about the logos of all the banks that are out there. Just to give you a glimpse at it, and these are all the education loan players that are out there, and we are happy to share this list. Don't worry about taking a screenshot of all this and all. The idea is really to understand that there are about 35 to 40 banks out there, or NBFCs. If two people or three banks give you an offer, that doesn't mean it is end of it all. And each bank would value a different element in your profile. You may get a loan because of your GRE score. You may not get a loan because of the university admit, uh, and you may even not even get a loan because of, say, financial profile of the co-applicant. So each of these different details that are coming in into your profile, different banks evaluate them differently. They put weightage on these elements differently. Someone would say, I don't care about the financial profile of your parents. I want to know how good you are and how good a university that you're going to. And based on that, you could you could get a loan or not get a loan. So in different bank would say, like mostly public sector banks, they would say, I don't care about which university you're going to and what GRE score you have. Tell me who is signing the loan application with you, and it needs to be a male co-applicant who needs to sign. And they would generally say that they would look at their financial profile and also ask for collateral. Now, coming to collateral, it's an important aspect. Many students may not have a collateral, of getting organized for the banks, but you should not worry about it. There are approximately 78 banks or NBFCs today, which are ready to give you non-collateral loans based on, obviously, the university that you have, the GRE score that you have, or the IELTS scores that you have, etc. So just make sure that you explore those options and then finalize. So before you put your pen on any loan offer, just make sure that you could check with us and make sure that it is your best offer, or at least for free we let you know what exactly is the best offer in the market. So don't miss on that kind of evaluation, because we understand that for about any average student or a parent with whatever work that you're doing or the college that you are in, it is hard for you to find out 35, 40 branches in this country, and of these banks, and then walk into each of them, explain your criteria, and then ask for an evaluation from them and an offer from them. It would usually take about 2 to 3 hours to even get to meet the person, explain what you want, and then come back. And then they would take another week or so in most of the banks, and to let you know what exactly is the offer that you're getting. So we are trying to change that system in a way that it becomes as simple as, say, searching for a flight ticket. For a flight ticket, you would just enter the dates and then you get out with a list of flights that are available and what cost. Can we make the system as simple as that, so that you as a students and parents can get to the cheapest interest rate available? So that's a project that we are working on, but essential idea is to make sure that you research as many banks and lenders as possible. So in terms of the education loan in general, there are even international players or lenders who can give you options as cheap as 7% or 6%. So just don't miss on those aspects at all. So let's move on to answering some questions. Is there any information on getting summer internships in Europe with you? So The summer internships in Europe, that would mean off campus and on campus. So we could find out what all the possibilities are depending on this profile of the student. So if you could reach out to us, we'll share you a list. There are a few options that we have. Some of them might be a general set of list. There might be some Europe specific that we could find for you. And I'm an average student. What are my chances of getting scholarship? So what are the major things that they're looking for? See, for a scholarship, every scholarship, if you just think from their point of view, they want to focus on some agenda. They have a vision. They put together, say, 100 crores, 200 crores, and they want to make sure that they give it to the students which match with their agenda. So as long as you are falling into their vision, like if Tata Trust is set up to make sure that students from India who are going abroad are not facing any difficulties and have enough cash to match up their journey. And if you feel the constraint, then expressing those constraints to them and saying why you would deserve that would increase your chances. So in general, there is no average student in my opinion. It is only how you project yourselves in the application will determine how deserving you will be for that scholarship. Even average students in your mind, if you define an average student by marks, then even they can get these scholarships if you have a background and a pitch and a letter of expression that matches with what these scholarships are looking for. So don't write a general letter and spam every scholarship. Understand from their website what exactly they are looking for, evaluate why you should get it, and then write about it. And what is the ideal GMAT scores that banks look at while considering student loans? That's a great question, because the very fact that you're asking this question, you understand that banks would differentiate you from others based on your scores. So in general, if you have above 650, they are more favorable. And that doesn't mean that you don't get a loan if it is less than 650. Some banks would say, I don't mind the GMAT score, just focus on, say, showing me an admit letter. Because even if you have a 600 GMAT score, if you have an admit, then they are fine with it. So just make sure that you need not stick to the banks just based on GMAT scores, but you should show your GMAT score to those who care for it. You should show your university admits to those who care for it, so that you get both the offers and then compare which one is better for you. Okay, so let's talk about a few aspects around the specific loans and what are the other elements that you need to cover. With each bank, there is basically a probability of they giving you a range in the interest range. They would say, with your profile, you may get somewhere between 11.5 to 13%. Now, please understand that there is some flexibility for them to negotiate it down to even say 11.5%. Like if they come up with an offer of say 12%, if you talk about the right points and if you show the right things to them, you could push them towards 11.5%. This is often in the case of private sector banks and NBFCs, whereas there is some room that they can consider just because they missed out on certain aspect, or they basically could evaluate a little more and understand. If you show a competing offer, they can budge a bit and then try to make sure that it works for you. So always have this window of negotiation with the banks. Public sector banks, you can't see me live. Is there a problem? Is there a problem looking at me? Okay, let me refresh the page. I hope I will not. Okay. So could someone confirm that they can see me? Okay. All right, so let's move on. Sorry for that break. The idea is that there is negotiating power with each of you, but especially if you know the right data points. So, what we are trying to do is if there is a person in Patna who applied with a similar profile like yours, and they put in an offer, and they got an offer from a bank, say in Hyderabad or in Delhi, there is some other student with a exactly similar profile who is getting a better profile, a better deal from the bank. So what if you are aware of these minute differences, and even a 0.5% interest on a 50 lakh amount would mean, roughly, a difference of 25,000 rupees every year. So just be mindful about those things, and and you could figure out and talk about your offer and express that to us if you want us to evaluate and let you know whether you got the best offer or not. And moving on, so have you evaluated all the loans is a crucial question. And are you confident you have the cheapest one? How can you be confident about you having the cheapest? Many of us are confident just because we walk into a public sector bank, we think that's the cheapest offer. But there are offers which are cheaper than public sector banks. They can go lower than 9.5% or 10.5%, whatever your public sector bank is talking about. Even with public sector banks, when they say 10.3%, there are different reasons why certain banks would move down their interest rates because of, say, the land that you show or collateral that you show. And coming to the question that we started off with, Vijay Patel's you know uh, comment, which is that in India there is no value for agricultural land, even though if there is a big farmer who's owning that land, and the education lenders don't accept these agricultural lands. You're right that education lenders don't generally accept these lands because there is a fear that they need to get an agricultural land from the farmers, and government doesn't support that kind of an agenda, so there is some kind of a friction there to move in that direction, and so they generally stay away from a collateral that they can't really utilize later in the future. So you have to understand why they are doing it. They have nothing against agricultural land as such. It is still valuable. There are places where you get an acre of agricultural land for 30, 40 lakhs or 3 crores or so, if it is very fertile. So there is enough cash in that land, but because of the government's often philanthropic support to farmers, lenders are fearful about that. But what you can do is there are different ways that you could figure out. There are non-collateral loans that you could focus on as a first option, so that you don't have to be bothered about not having a collateral or your collateral not being accepted when they don't even ask for a collateral. And then you should look at any other collateral, even if they don't match up the loan amount. Say you have a 30 lakh house and you have a 50 lakh agricultural land. Don't assume that only agricultural land is a better bet. There are banks which will be okay with looking at a collateral of 30 lakhs and giving you 50 lakhs if there is a decent academic profile that comes in, or a university admit that is really good, or the financial profile of the co-applicant is good. So they are trying to see how best they can get to you and offer you the money so that you can go abroad. See, it's their business to give you money. There is always a lender for everyone in general. It is only about at what price will you get them, and is it a reasonable risk that they can take with the parent or the student. So some people come with an option which is like, there are NRI parents, there is no collateral, they're going to UK, and in general UK asks for collateral loans, used to. Now banks are ready to give you non-collateral loans to UK. There are some NBFCs which do that. So if you are looking at UK, that could be one option, where if you're looking even for non-collateral, till this point, from many years, UK has been asking, or UK has conditions laid out that we need collateral-backed loans, or generally people banks give collateral-backed loans. So it's no more a condition. You can get non-collateral loans if you're going to UK. And another important point is thinking about the terms. Till this point I talked about saving on your interest rate. I must reconfirm that a lot of people don't know what their best offer is and so lose out on savings. They range between 3 lakhs to 23 lakhs. But how are these savings calculated? Why am I saying 3 lakhs or 23 lakhs? It's a simple calculation like this. Say a 50 lakh loan has a 2% difference in interest rate. Say instead of a 12%, you take a 10% interest rate. That means you're saving 1 lakh rupees every year. And in general, you would have a loan term of about 10 years to 20 years. So you can choose to spend 10 years to 20 years to pay back that loan amount. And they basically would, if you just, even if you consider you paying back the loan in 8 years, 8 years into 1 lakh per year is 8 lakhs. So that's a saving that you can have by just making a conscious decision right now, even if you are in the middle of all the hurry of getting your visa interviews lined up and going abroad, and finishing off all the details now. So we created GradRight to make sure that we support you in that journey and maximize your savings. We are the only organization which are working towards, uh, you know, making sure that you save the most and saying no to every other lender. So anything about any question that you have around student loans, you could talk about it now and we could address them as we basically are on this topic. Okay, since my parents are related to agriculture sector, they don't have ITR, so there is no chance that I will be getting education loan. No, as I said, if you could tell us a little more by filling a small form that we have on our website, I could specifically talk about your case, Shivam Kumar. It depends on multiple factors and not just one. There are about 20 different parameters each bank would look at, and there are 40 different banks in NBFCs. So we could do a quick check with all of them about your profile and make sure that you have visibility into whether you will have funds or not for the program that you're going for. So, fill that, and I think that would be very useful for you if you are trying to evaluate that. Any other questions on student loans? And feel free to ask anything that is helpful for your friends, so that you can tell them later. Or if you're evaluating your own programs, understand that it could, if you have multiple admits, then even funds or visibility of funds or the interest rates that you can get can also help you understand which one to choose, so that you will choose something which there is a lesser risk, or there is a better capital that is available. And most of these student loans will, if you're going for a public sector bank, they often ask for about 15 to 20% of margin amount. That means if you go and ask them for 50 lakhs, they will ask you to show 10 lakhs, the 20% of that, and only then they will give you the 40 lakh amount. So be aware of those nuances. And in fact, regarding the student loans, one other important criteria is that most of the people who go abroad would want to pay off the loan as early as possible, especially when you get a job of which could earn you between 40 lakhs to 50 lakhs every year. You want to pay off the student loan as early as possible so that you can save on your interest rate. And so the prepayment conditions would be very important to consider. So how are the banks actually evaluating your loan, and whether they are actually evaluating and giving you a prepayment condition that works for you or not? Because if you're planning to pay back the loan in the first 3 years, is there a penalty that they are putting on it? In general, the penalties are lower for an education loan, but there are still some banks and NBFCs which put out the penalties. So it's not just the interest rate that you should be watchful about, it's also the prepayment penalties. Another hidden aspect is that the interest rate that you take today can vary with time. So always keep a check on whether you are actually with a good lender or not. Today, if you take a loan at 10%, and because of some changes internally in that bank or the NBFC, they can raise the interest rate slowly by 0.25% every 3 months or 6 months, and it may reach out to about 13%. Similarly, it can go down, but be mindful. after once you have a loan, don't assume that it's a deal done. You constantly keep evaluating and be mindful about that. And lastly, whether loan is visa friendly or not. See, the fundamental element that embassies would look for before, or the visa officers would look for, is that are you putting out your financials in an honest manner or not? And do you intend to return to India or not? If you are going out to settle there for a job, then your chances of getting a visa loan is less if you express that clearly that you're going there out there for that. I'm not saying that that you should not express, or you should not even want to settle out in a different country, but just make sure that there is enough evidence for them to believe that you want to come back. If there are different connections that you have in the country, make sure that you show them. If it is a collateral backed loan based out of India, then that gives an assurance for them that there is a bank from India which is being giving a loan, collateral or non-collateral. And so there is some connection here. If your parents are here, if your relatives are here, establish those connections in the visa application, so that it's very clear that your entire social network is here, and you would that shows that you would want to come back. And in terms of some of the banks actually went through some interesting cases against them in terms of some fraud related to processing the loans. Embassies are very clear in getting to them and trying to dig into them and try understanding what the issue is. So there are some articles on some banks which has some constraints, but there are you need to look at the details of that article and where exactly it is stemming from. There are some bank managers which get into these fraud, and so it created a different perception for the embassies that they need to be very mindful about getting a loan from this bank. But they would not outright reject a visa, in my understanding, because they see that oh, this particular loan is from that bank. They would actually, it's not that every single loan given by a certain bank is a fraud loan, but it is important to know these things and establish all the criteria or the proofs that it's an honest loan. And very clearly they would do their internal checks on your loan with the banks and arrive at a conclusion. So as long as you choose a legitimate path and don't choose a path wherein someone is giving you 30 lakhs to put in your bank account, and you're paying a temporary interest rate, and you showing that amount as a proof for visa, they are very risky. There are loan options for every student nearly, and you should explore all legitimate ways to get to them. So that is an important thing. Please do not go by some of the agents saying that here is 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs, put it in your account, and it will stay in there for 3 months, and then I'll withdraw. There'll be no problem for visa. I would generally avoid such opportunities. And I want to, ask if there are any other questions related to this topic. Anyone who has come in just in the last few minutes. Otherwise, we could move on to concluding this one. But if you have anything, I would basically get to any of these questions. So let me talk about how we have been trying to establish the fact that you can get to your cheapest loan. What we have been doing is that we for free evaluate for each student, for two banks that you think you will get a good loan. Say, for example, you can mention any of the two banks that you have in your mind that you will anyway go and ask them for a loan and mostly take a loan. And we tell you what those two banks are telling you, and you could check with them so that we can earn the trust of data accuracy. And we also will give you what you might be missing and what is the best offer in the market by asking or evaluating all 35, 40 options for you, so that before you go out and take a student loan, you would surely understand what exactly is the best offer. So if 9% is the best offer and you still want to go for 11%, that is fine. That's your choice. But if you want to access the 9% offer, then you could work with us, and the total fee that we charge is 1% of the student loan amount as a service charge. So if you're going for 30 lakhs, we would not charge you, in fact, 30,000. It is capped at 20,000. So at max, you will pay GradRight to make this sustainable and useful for many students. You would pay us 20,000. But with that, you would potentially earn savings in lakhs, and that is what we have researched and established as a system. So we created a system which interacts with all 35, 40 banks and gets to your best offer by making sure that you don't have to spend time walking into 35, 40 branches. And just because we don't do this exercise, 80% of the students have missed out on at least 3 lakhs of savings. So I hope you see the rationale, and we are happy to guide you specifically on your particular profile. And in case you want us to evaluate the scholarships, graduate assistantships, and also the soft loans and anything that exists out there that can reduce this expense other than student loans, there is a different package which also costs the exact same 20,000, but wherein you sign up directly onto that and you pay either 0 rupees upfront, and only when we are successful you'll pay 20,000, or you pay 5,000 upfront and then you pay the remaining 15,000 once you have all the funds. So in a way, you don't really pay the majority of the money upfront. Either you start at 0 rupees or 5,000. So we hope there is some use out of this webinar, and we hope that you could use the links in the description below. That will help you go to the form wherein you can fill in your details around your particular financial profile. So the next conversation from here on with you can be very specific about what your profile is and who is giving you the best loan and how to procure that, so that you don't lose on getting to your best. And this is India's first such initiative. So you will not generally have a comparative with us. But I want to make sure that an education loan is as simple as buying a flight ticket for you or a train ticket. So make sure that you utilize our service in at least the free service, wherein you can find out what is the best option out there. So I'll sum it up with that, and all the very best with your with your specific loan opportunities or scholarship opportunities. And in terms of, I'm just reviewing the questions just to make sure that if there is any question that's missed out. How much bank balance you need for US visa? Really, the bank balance doesn't matter if you have a loan. But if you don't have a loan, then it would be a constraint. And so you need to show at least 1.5 times of your I-20 value. In general, as a condition, whatever I-20 states, it is enough to show that. But I would urge you to aim higher. You don't have to take the disbursement if at all you are taking a loan. For example, your I-20 states 30 lakhs. Try showing 40, 45 lakhs through your bank loan and your savings. Even if you show just 30 lakhs, it meets the embassy's criteria in general. But it is always good to show that you can cover your entire program, because I-20 mentions the costs of only the first year, but you're going for a 2-year program. That means it would be good to show that you can withstand by yourselves for that entire 2-year program. So make sure that you have that additional buffer. And in case of US visa, as I said, there's no specific bank balance. But if you are looking at other countries like Australia and New Zealand, where only private and public sector banks are acceptable for these loans, in those cases, there might be certain restrictions. You need to show the money. Like, even if you show any part in your bank account, just make sure that they stay there for at least 2-3 months, so that the embassy guys would understand that it's your money and not someone else's. In general, it's a practice that people take money from in the last minute from different people and have them deposited into their own account and say and show the embassy guys that it's their savings. But it's a tricky one. People need to see how you got that money. Unless you establish that proof, it will be hard for the embassy or the visa officer to just say, yes, this is legitimate, I'll go forward with it. So just be mindful about that. Have the money source clear and have it with you for slightly more than say at least 2 months. So let's see if there are any other questions that we missed. How about studying in France as compared to US? Happy to connect with someone in the renewable energy space, because I don't want to comment on something which I am not a specialist in. With better career growth and better earning is what you're aiming for. Absolutely. You should check out our free program pages on the website, wherein you can find for any university that you're going for among the top 500 universities. If it is a STEM program, then we cover that, and you could research on what is the investment you're making and what is the average salary that you'll be earning from it. In general, for computer science and some of the engineering fields we covered, we keep updating that. And acceptance letter from University of Manchester, we covered this. The average student, what's the ideal GMAT score? Since my parents are related to agricultural. So I think we covered all these questions, but in case you feel that it's not covered, contact me on my personal mobile number, which is 9560784184. I repeat, 9560784184, or contact us at the below description details that we laid out. And visit our website, fill in the form that is under treasure plan, so that we have all the details from you and we could give you the best loan option or the funding option available for you for free, and then you can choose how to proceed from there. All right, thank you so much. It's been an hour nearly, and on a Saturday morning, you have spent this time with us. We're grateful for that. Hope there is some value out of this, and do subscribe on the link below so that we could do more of this. And once we upload the video, you could subscribe on the channel. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend ahead, and we are working today, so reach out to us in case you need anything else. Bye.